This is a talk about our vulnerabilities working with refugees. The main tool we have at this work is ourselves and our empathy, because we have to be empathic if you're going to do a good job. If we did it without any empathy, we would be like robots and wouldn't really be able to help at all. The difference between empathy and sympathy, as I see it, is that sympathy is our ability to feel others' feelings. Like, for example, if you have a friend that's crying, then you feel like crying as well. While empathy is our ability to put ourselves in another person's situation, like see the world through their eyes in a way. In this context, see empathy as a door. Like a door you could have wide open and all your love and empathy and everything could pour out. But the thing with doors is that people could go both ways. So the refugees might have come through the door. If you find yourself unable to sleep, you're thinking about them all the time, you can protect yourself by just have this little gap at the door, but then you'll have the problem with you not being able to get your empathy out. So it's like working with empathy, it's like a double-edged sword. The advantages is that you'll better understand their challenges. You'll find better and more adjusted solutions to their problems. The refugees themselves will probably feel more understood and seen, and it creates a good atmosphere and probably a good cooperation. The disadvantages with working with empathy is that it's very mentally draining or demanding. Their stories could relate to your own stories somehow. It could make you blind somehow for what you're doing, and it could give you a feeling of powerlessness. No matter how much love and empathy you pour out, you're still not going to be able to fix all their problems. If you're empathically involved over time, your door wide open, then you could feel, in the end you could feel overwhelmed, like your head being full, like exhausted. That's something we call compassion fatigue. It's not dangerous at all, and it's a natural consequence of your work, and the next day you'll be ready and refreshed. If this compassion fatigue becomes chronic, we might call it a burnout. A burnout is chronic compassion fatigue combined with either system challenges or environmental challenges. The three symptoms of burnout is emotional exhaustion, like you feel overstrained, empty of emotional resources. And then we have the depersonalization symptom. You get negative, unsocial, unemotional, distant. The third one is reduced work effort, feelings of incompetence, you get lower work ethics, etc. Remember, burnout is not like it's not a disorder in that way. It's more of a state of mind, and it's a natural reaction to a very unnatural situation. Remember, you're getting challenged on so many levels, like emotionally, cognitively, with your relations, and everybody's different, so it might be some personal predispositions there as well. If you think about the refugees, there's a lot of trauma. Many of them are traumatized. The definition of a trauma is It's a response to a stressful event of a brief and long duration of an exceptionally threatening and catastrophic nature. Three symptoms, the three main symptoms there are invading symptoms. They are, for example, nightmares. They don't choose to have them. Thoughts that come to you if you want it or not, like invading thoughts. We have avoidance, which is a symptom, like they avoid situations or things that remind them of what traumatized them. And the last one is activating symptoms. It's like the anger or other feelings that get them activated. Trauma could be contagious. Because what is trauma? Trauma is a loss or altered understanding of the world. I met this one girl who was a victim of violence, and I tried to talk to her about what happened. I thought that was the trauma, but it wasn't. She said her wounds had healed, but what hadn't healed was the understanding of her world. Her understanding was that grown-ups are nice to children, and that's the rule. But then she experienced a grown-up not being nice to her as a child. And if that was wrong, what else she understood as the truth was wrong? So that was the trauma. So what happens if everything you think is right might be wrong? It sends you out into a chaos, and your defense mechanisms activate. And if we are there with these refugees experiencing all this, what happens? We are really vulnerable because we are very empathically involved in them. So then our defenses could be activated, and we could experience both our own feelings and the chaos they are feeling. It's a paradox, actually, because if we are getting all these symptoms, if it's burnout symptoms or trauma symptoms, what do? We need support, but we have these tendencies to get into fights with our colleagues. We need stability. What do? We break the rules. We take our phone with us home, even though we know we shouldn't. We should leave it at work. We need self-care, but we work longer hours and we do things that doesn't really, which isn't taking care of ourselves. So who's vulnerable? Who's most vulnerable? Those who meet a lot of refugees and who is in that situation over a long time is vulnerable. But also new people, because they don't have all the experience. And ironically, old people who has a lot of experience, because they are not maybe willing to admit they're affected by this as well. Those who doesn't have a meaningful free time is affected. Those who don't have a big social network around them. Those who are not in touch who is not in touch with their own feelings. And those with low self-esteem, who can easily feel incompetent. So, what do we do to prevent burnout or compassion fatigue? When it comes to the workplace or the organization, there should be a clear organizational structure, like clear roles, clear expectations, visions. There should be a feedback culture. You should be given the necessary resources to be able to do what you're set to do. People should be set in a position where they can excel. There should also be like a time and space to work through your impressions through the day. That could be like an open door policy, it could be a check-in, check-out system, or some sort of colleague support. There should be variations through the day, like not too much of the same task. Theoretical knowledge could be of help. You need to be active. Play football, go for a walk, and get to know your limitations, what's okay for you and what's not. Know your feelings and your emotional reactions. How do you react to different stuff? When is it enough for you? And be open to the care of others. And be open about your feelings and needs to others. And be wary about your colleagues, because they might be burnout already and they don't even know it yet. But you do. Good luck.